Hello and thank you for joining me. This is Jennifer Knatters, my knitting and nattering video podcast, and I am Jennifer. I will be your host for the next wee while if you choose to join me. I hope you do. I have tea. I have something a little stronger because my arm is not moving very well. And I have knitting to talk about. So, I think I might hear a cat. Always be lucky enough to be joined by a cat. As I said, my name is Jennifer. I live in Inverness, Scotland with my husband, my 2 children, and my 2 cats. And I like to knit. I don't have much of a social life, so knitting is pretty much it. You would not believe how much that hurt to do with my left shoulder. It just started hurting tonight. Putting my toddler to bed, and since then I'm just having radiating and stabbing pain from my left shoulder. One of my friends refers to it as toddler shoulder, like tennis elbow, but the parents of toddlers get toddler shoulder. It is very true. Moving right into it. I suppose today's the 7th of October. It has been raining off and on today. It's not currently raining too loudly, but we are sat in the conservatory. I'm sorry, I know the shadows are really weird. I did find the little lamp. Excuse me, too much gin. It has not been much gin. I did find the little lamp that I was looking for when I was going through the garage, but I don't have it set up yet. Is it? None of these lights. That's slightly better. So hopefully I will get my little lamp set up and then we can have better light out here because this is what we've got. Sorry about that. Moving on to knitting. I have a finished object. I am wearing my finished object. It is my Naranj cowl, which is based on the, I believe, Arabic word for orange, the fruit, and it is from the fruit, the naranj, that the English gets the word for the color orange. And this is knit in Ripples Crafts Suilven yarn, which is the merino yak silk blend that I also knit my Brayville cardigan out of. And this is Glencanisp in autumn is the colorway. And it is about the only orangish yarn that I can wear. It's got a lot of pinks and purples in it, a little bit of browns, and yep, it's very pretty and I can actually wear it. I mean, it's a little orange for me, but I can wear it. And I knit this. I actually made it bigger than the pattern suggests. The pattern is 9 repeats of the lace pattern, and I did, the chevron pattern, and I did 10 repeats. And I also, once you join it in the pattern has you only do increased rounds every other repeat of the chart, whereas I did it every repeat of the chart and did bigger increases to give it a more circular, so when I wear it under a coat, it'll cover my shoulders. The pattern is by Hilary Smith Callis, and I was going to say she is a much tinier woman than I am. So the pattern as written, she's like, oh, you can pull it over your shoulders. And I'm like, I can't. So yeah, I did make it bigger and I wound up using every last scrap of the yarn. And then I even had to add, I had a bit of orange, which I bought to knit something else. In the Suilven colorway, and I wound up having to use it to finish about just around half of the circumference of the cast off. So yep, that's my first finished object, and my second finished object is very tiny, so I have to figure out where it went. Come back here. I had this all laid out. What happened to it? It is just very tiny. I'm really sorry for this. I did lay everything out before I started. Where did it go? Okay, well, as I move other things, if I find it, I will tell you about it, and otherwise it's a mystery finished object for next week. So moving on to works in progress, I picked up a project you haven't seen for a while because I haven't worked on it in about a year, and these are my Hubble Bubble Double Trouble socks, and this is by Surfing Duck, who I think last year I was referring to a sparkling duck. I don't know where my brain did that. I am mildly dyslexic, so sometimes I read things and my brain just gives me something completely different in an attempt to make sense. So I apologize. Surfing Duck, and Surfing Duck does socks with a little colorwork surprise on the heels. So this one is pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns, and the pattern gives two different faces, but I am doing the same face on each of my socks. So last year I started, this is West Yorkshire Spinner Aire Valley DK in the orange and the black colorway, and I cast these on a year ago, beginning of October. I knit them for Socktober, and I knit the first sock, which would have been this one, the black cuff, and then the black heel, and this one will have, I've just started the toe decreases on this one again, and I tried it on and it was too snug. I mean, I could get them on, but it was not comfortable and it was work getting it on and off. So I said I will do the second sock in a slightly larger size, which was nice because this actually wound up being the same stitch count as the small sock in the pattern, so I could just follow it as written. So I knit this one, and then I did shaped toe decreases. This was the first sock I did shaped toe decreases for. I never actually got to wear it, but I have finished. This is the right foot, which is the orange cuffs, heel, and toes with a black jack-o'-lantern. And then I ripped out the first sock, and basically that was as far as I got. I cast on the cuff, and I think I had done the orange, or maybe I cast on the cuff and that was as far as I got, because I think in November or December I picked it up and I worked on it just a little bit, and that got me the orange, because when I picked it up yesterday, Saturday, I started on the black, and I made it all the way through the heel and was doing heel decreases. So I started yesterday, and now I'm actually on the toe decreases, and I kind of wondered if I could finish this before doing my podcast tonight, but my shoulder, which is now hurting, hurt too much to work on this at all. Well, to work on it much at all. But as you can see, when it's folded up, the toes and the cuff are the same length. Come on, work for me. That's not really working for me. Aha, there we go. The heels and the cuffs match. And the stripes are kind of the same. I think from this one to this one, because I was doing it a year later, I looked at the sock, but I think maybe I started the cuff at a slightly, or the heel at a slightly different place in the yarn. I don't remember, it's been over a year. So I think the heels are slightly different in where the color band comes. So I need to try these on again and make sure I'm doing my toe decreases at the correct rate to make it fit. But I am all done. I've got, here's the ball band. They have changed the ball band since then, because I do have other Aire Valley DK. I got a kit, and half of the yarn came with this label and half of the yarn came with what is the new label. So I've got a bit of the orange left and a bit of the black left. Theoretically, I have the same amount of each. Hey, I found my finished object. It was in the bottom of that bag. Although I do have just a few wee balls of the orange yarn, because when I ripped it out, I'm still doing the same number of rows for the stripes, which they're 10 row stripes. But because it's a bigger circumference, it's taking more yarn. But I am almost done with that, and I'm very excited because I intend to wear the heck out of these all October. On Fridays, Catherine and I have gymnastics, which is bare feet for the kids, but stocking feet for the grown-ups, and I will be there with my pumpkins, which is good because there's class this week, and then it's half term for 2 weeks, and then it's one more week for Halloween, so I can wear it those 2 weeks and be like, yay, pumpkins! Yay, jack-o'-lanterns! In the US, if you carve a pumpkin, it's a jack-o'-lantern. In the UK, they refer to carved pumpkins as pumpkins. They don't really tend to use the jack-o'-lantern, and it's very confusing because people will be like, look at this cute pumpkin, and I'm like, that's not a pumpkin, that's a jack-o'-lantern, it's been carved. It makes sense because here in Scottish, the tradition was to carve, I believe it's turnips, but it might be, I know sometimes they call neeps, or what they call Swedes for most of the UK, or rutabaga in the US. And carving a rutabaga stroke Swede makes a lot more sense than carving a turnip. But every year at Halloween, some very hardy Scot will make a point of carving a turnip. Anyway, in the bottom of the wee bag, I found my second finished object for the week, which is my wee peach. And this is the impeachment peach, or something to that effect, which is a pattern by Hunter Hammersen that has not come out yet. This is a test knit. I know I said that I passed up test knit opportunity because I have done a lot of test knits for her in September. Well, there was a peach, and it is an impeachment peach. So I had to knit one. The color is coming out a little oranger than it is in real life. It is a bit peachier. It has a very naughty little cleft. I believe Hunter has named hers Nancy, because Nancy Pelosi has finally started the impeachment proceedings for the current US president, whose name is not worth mentioning. So Hunter whipped up a little peach, and everyone, oh my god, that's so cute, I love it, I must have one. What's the pattern? So she very quickly threw together a pattern, very quickly put it out to test knitters, and hopefully, I think it's actually coming out Tuesday. So right now it's Monday night, tomorrow is Tuesday. By the time you see this, it might already be out. Hunter Hammersen, Violet Made Domestic, Little Peaches. Ta-da! It was a very easy knit. It was a very quick knit. I used some of the Lay Family Yarn minis. I got this kind of peachy orange and the green, and then my brown stem is a bit of opal sock that I had. And my 2-year-old Catherine has already stolen it and walked around pretending to eat it, and just really cute. So I couldn't find it because I snuck it in my knitting bag. And then I found it and took it out, and apparently I put it back in the knitting bag. It's my little peach. Look for it. She did say that some of the proceeds, like whatever money she makes off of the peach pattern, will go to helping people who have been harmed by the administration. When she asked for who she should make donations to, I suggested Elizabeth Warren's War Chest. Elizabeth Warren is one of the Democrats Party candidates who might be on the ballot for 2020. So that was my advice, was to support the candidate I'm currently hoping for, although anyone who gets the nod, I will hold my nose and I will vote for someone because 45 has to go. He has to go. So yes, that's my little peach. It is adorable. It is a good cause. And it'll fit right in with the play kitchen when I am done. Moving on to more works in progress. This is the first regatta sock. This is the lumineux pattern by Ysolda Teague, and I was just doing the toe decreases again, shaped toe, on the first sock last week. And this pattern is interesting because it's got an afterthought heel, but it also has a gusset. I don't know if you can kind of see the gusset here in the shadows. It has a gusset which gives it a form that more naturally follows a human foot. Store-bought socks have afterthought or short row heels because that's what you can work on a knitting machine or like a little knitting loom thing, because then you just work half the stitches back and forth and you've made a heel. But that's not really the shape of people's feet. So a heel flap and gusset for most people is more comfortable, and for some people is the only thing that will work for their feet. But this kind of combines both techniques. So you get the cute little wedges of the contrast colors, but you still get the comfort of the heel. And the yarn is Lay Family Yarns again, and I believe this is the Regatta colorway. Let me just grab the colorway. Is Caracal Regatta, and it is, there you go, Lay Family Yarns, and this is a yarn kit I picked up at Perth. I've been wearing them with my other half-finished sock project that I will show you, and so there's somewhere, this is a really soft merino blend. I normally knit socks with a much hardier fiber. Sorry, there's just a little flying thing in here. A much sturdier, coarser yarn. This is kind of an experiment. It's beautiful. It is feeling so soft in my hands. Anyway, to show you what I'm working on, I have made it to the contrast yarn where I'm going to work the afterthought heel at the end. That little pink stitch marker kind of shows where I was, what I got done. I put it there before church knitting, which basically got me up to there. And then today I just knit like 2 rows, put in the waste yarn, and I've even worked my first, possibly even my second, I think I'm just about to do my second decrease round. So that's my second sock. Since I have been wearing the first one, it is a lot more stretched wide than this one is currently on the needles. And I just have my little ball and my big ball to finish those off. And I don't know why I'm still throwing things over to the side. I no longer need to find my little peach. The other project I worked on this week, I added 6 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which squares off my blanket again. It is now a 6x7 square. It had been 6x6, and now it is 6x7, so I need to do 7 squares, which will make it a proper square. I guess I rectangled it off. And I love working on my short row blanket, and I now love collecting minis so that I can work on my mitered square garter stitch. Lovely, squidgy, yummy, picking out colors and putting them in. This is what I now love to do. It's right up there with knitting haps, which is the same thing because that's a lot of garter stitch as well. So it obviously scratches that same comfort knit. And then I picked up a project you haven't seen for a while. And this is, I'm in the middle of the row, and I apologize for that. That always makes it more difficult to show. This is the first sleeve. That's my stitch mark. It's a wee kitty cat playing with a ball of yarn. This is my CustomFit Alta in Jamie Possum Plus. And this is a pattern by Amy Herzog. And I've knit the front and the back. And then I started the sleeve, and then I had too much going on, so I wasn't working on it. And that stitch marker shows, I think, where I was the last time I talked about this. So I just finished, that's why I'm halfway through a row. I ran out of yarn, and tonight before I came here, I grabbed the next ball, Jamie Possum, and it says double knitting, but it's also aire, because the yarn, the Possum, is a very light, it's a Possum, 20% Possum, 80% merino lamb's wool, but the Possum is a very light fiber, and so you get a lot of yardage or meterage, if you prefer, for the weight of the ball, compared for a comparable, like just a straight merino, you wouldn't get nearly as much yardage with it, but it can knit at a looser gauge to make more of an aire weight. So this can be either used as a DK or an aire weight, this yarn. Aire's kind of the next size up from a DK. Anyway, I pulled this out, and then I basically stared at my pattern for a while, and I had to remember that I'm doing a mashup of a CustomFit pattern and the Alta pattern, both of which are by Amy Herzog. She wrote the Alta pattern, excuse me, and she designed the CustomFit platform where you put in your own measurements and your gauge swatch, and you get a pattern using your yarn to kind of the specifications that you wish, you know, how long you want the sleeves to be. This one I'm wearing is also a CustomFit. How long you want the sleeves to be, what kind of neckline, cardigan or pullover, a bunch of things like that. What kind of, you know, this is 2x2 rib or whatever stitch you want it to be. You get a custom pattern to knit a sweater, either a pullover or a cardigan for you or whoever's measurements you put in. So this is a mashup of the two. So I've got one sheet of paper, which is the instructions for the Alta, and another sheet of paper, which is the instructions for the pullover in this yarn. And then, you know, you follow the Alta instructions, let's say to add extra stitches to make up for the fact that this is a cable, and then what cable to use, and it's not a straight 2x2 rib across the bottom here because it feeds into that cable, just stuff like that. But anyway, I had to remember where I was on both sheets and what I was doing. And fortunately, one of the things I do if I'm working on something like a jumper and you work, you know, work this decrease every, in this case it's 5th row, 18 times. Well, I pulled out 18 stitch markers. I just moved them up to the top, and then I clipped them on. You know, I did like the first 4, and then I pulled out stitch markers and put them, so I had a total of however many repeats I need to do. And then if I do every 5 repeats and I add a stitch marker, in this case it's an increase row, when I run out of stitch markers, I've done the amount the pattern suggests. So I did have that as my big hint for where I was in the pattern. And it's my first sleeve. I believe this is knitting at an aire gauge because it is very, very soft. You can see a little light through it, but not too much. It'll be fluffy and warm and light, and it is so soft and snuggly. Some people don't like possum wool. I've learned this since I bought it. I bought this wool at Loch Ness Knit Festival last year, 2018. So it would be kind of nice if I had this finished for this year, 2019, though that is a fair bit more knitting to do since it is only, I'm now getting a daily email from Loch Ness Knit Festival, which is, guys, come on, not cool. But yeah, 12 days, 11 days, and now 10 days until Loch Ness Knit Festival. Since then I've learned that Possum is a contentious fiber because it is harvested from dead possums. It's not like wool where you shave them and then you do something, you shave sheep and then you do something with the fiber, or like bunnies where you can just stroke them and the fiber comes off and you can spin it and card it from their shed fibers. Possums, the fiber comes from dead possums. However, the possums are killed either way because they are a pest animal in New Zealand. I believe, I don't know if they're invasive. I would hazard a guess they are because so many things are. I know bunnies in Australia are particularly famous for being invasive, and eucalyptus in my native California are very invasive and apparently all going to explode soon. Apparently they have a 200-year growth cycle and then they all go up like Roman candles when they reach this maturity, and then that explosion is how, like, the redwood trees, the pine cones, burning the seeds is what releases the seed, burning the seed pods releases the seeds. So anyway, all of these trees that were planted about 200 years ago, all at the same time, because the Spanish conquistadors thought you could use the straight tall wood to make masts for ships, but it turns out it's a very soft wood and is not suitable. But they grew very quickly and very straight and very tall, so they planted them up and down the California coast, and they are now all at the same time, finally, 200 years, reaching their maturity and are highly flammable and explode. And California is known for its, California has two seasons. There's the rainy season and the fire season, and the rainy season hasn't really showed up basically since I left 10 years ago. I think they've had one good rainy season in the 10 years since then. So these trees are primed to go up like Roman candles. Anyway, back to New Zealand and the possum. The possums are killed anyway, so some people feel that using the fiber at least means their deaths aren't entirely wasted, and some people think you shouldn't be killing cute fuzzy animals. So pick where you are. Clearly I'm okay with certainly using the fiber I already have. So yeah, possum, slightly contentious. So those are my works in progress, the things I have knit on this week. And that brings me to acquisitions. And when I was at Perth, there was yarn that was staring at me. And it was at the Botanical Yarns booth. And the woman who was running it was very, very nice to me. I presume she was nice to everyone, but I had a particularly nice interaction with her. And I bought this from her booth, which is fox fiber, and the colorway is Looking for Rainbows. And I bought this, but there was another skein of yarn that was staring at me. I mean, absolutely just staring at me from across the room. I had to sit with my back to it when we were having our tea and coffee. And unfortunately, the proprietress of Botanical Yarns was made redundant and had a redundancy sale to turn some of her stock into money that she can actually use to pay bills and buy food with. And I bought the one that had been staring at me, which this is the colorway Ursula, and it is a purple gradient with a dark gray and a light gray end. So I bought this, and these are both 75 superwash merino, 25 nylon. It is very soft, like the Lay Family yarns, and a bit thinner This one seems a bit more tightly spun than this one, but it might just be more tightly twisted. I think it's just more tightly twisted to go into the skein. So I bought that yarn, and then of her own dye, she had a wee mini of this hot pink, which I bought in the hope that it would match my missing sock. As you can see, it is not a perfect match, but if worse comes to worse, this ball of yarn theoretically weighs the same as the sock I still have. So if I wind up doing a few rows in the hot pink, that'll be fine. Or I will be keeping I think I'll take this with me to Loch Ness Knit Fest to see if I can find a similar pink. And this pink obviously can just go in my Cozy Memories blanket along with all my other minis. So I got that. I got a wee badge. Oh, it's upside down. Let me straighten it. A wee badge for my sock. Well, for my knitting bag that currently holds my Cozy Memories blanket until it gets too big. And it is the Joy of Socks. As you can see, I've got several badges. Very few of them are specifically knitting related though. I've got my pussy hat and my Joy of Socks. And these two are from Carrie Bookish's Kickstarter for her book. And then this is Ethel from Brit Yarn. So those are the specifically yarn related ones. And then I also got a set of 5 keychains. And they say this knitting bag belongs to, and then I put my email address. It's the same as my YouTube channel. I don't know why I put my finger over, but it's the same as my YouTube channel at gmail.com. So I have 5 of those, and the next time I lose a knitting progress, a knitting bag, a knitting project, that's the word, a knitting project, hopefully I will have put one of those wee tags on it, and I might actually get the whole thing back. Yep, so that catches me up on that. Knit along news, I did say last time that this week, today's the 7th, so it's a week since the current month of Boost Your Knitting projects has started. This month is Joining in Yarns in Colorwork. If you follow my blog, if you follow my podcast, if you've watched some of the older episodes, you'll know that I am confident in knitting together colors, joining colors for colorwork. I like the split splicing method. I do not bother with weaving in ends. I just straight split splice them together and go. So it is a hat for it. I have not started it. I don't like the way the hat looks in the project pictures, but I have liked some of the pictures of projects that other people have done. I don't know if it's just the lighting for the project pictures. It's kind of solid bands for the background in mostly in a gradient, and then it has, I guess it's a flower or a medallion kind of shape over them, and the project photos have it in kind of a blue-green gradient with an orange flower over it, and I just find I can't see whatever the orange thing is. I can't quite make it out. I don't know why. There's one project photo where someone did it in, when you order the kit, you can either get the designer colors or Jen's colors, and one of the projects is knit in Jen's colors, and it's a pinky purple background gradient, and I don't even remember what color the medallion was, but it looks maybe a blue. It looks really pretty. So yeah, I don't know if I will knit the designer colors. I got the designer color kit for these 3 months. I don't know if I'll knit it in the designer colors or if I will dig out of stash to get the more pinky purple blue colors. I don't know, but yeah, I haven't started that. I am interested in knitting it. I have thought about knitting a few other things. There's a hat from Milwaukee Hades, the Kate Davies apparently I've lost the ability to to form words into coherent sentences. There's a couple other hats that I already have in stash, or I even thought about knitting another vest for my 2-year-old, a Farewell vest for her. But now I'm leaning towards knitting the hat from the project book. It is, like I said, some of the other projects look quite cute, and maybe if I just change the color for the medallion to something that for me registers more strongly, that might make it better. I don't know, but I finished this, and my socks are almost done, and my other socks are almost done. So I am clearing the deck a little bit here, and I will be able to work on something new. I'm just checking my notes here. Family-wise, the big news is Tulip had the dedication service at the church for her Girl Brigade troop, and Catherine went with us. I was very surprised. I ask her every time, do you want to go to church with me and Tulip, or do you want to stay home with Daddy? And she always picks stay home Daddy, because she doesn't like being dropped off at the creche. Well, today she said she wanted to go with, and as we were exiting the bus and walking towards the church, I thought, I wonder if she voted to go with us, because she thought maybe we were taking her sister to school, because the Girl Brigade uniform is identical to her school uniform, except she's wearing a Girl Brigade sweatshirt instead of the school sweatshirt. And then we got there, and I left the pram and all of her coats in the hall, which is where we dropped off Tulip, and then we went to leave the hall, and Catherine got concerned. She's like, no, our pram. And I'm like, no, it's okay, we'll come back for it. And that's when I realized she didn't know she was going like that. I'm like, oh, you thought we were just dropping her off at Girl Brigades, like a regular Girl Brigades thing, and then we go do something else for 90 minutes and come back and get her. And I took her into the creche, and she was like, no, I'm clinging to my leg. But then she was clinging to my leg and pulling me into the room towards the toys. And she settled. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to sit in this chair and stay, I'll stay right here, let you get comfortable. And she settled right into playing, and I slipped off to go to the church and watch the thing with Tulip. And then when I came back and got her, she didn't even notice me come in the room. I had to call her name a few times because she was playing a game with the person who was supervising creche and one of the other babies. And then when she did see me, she ran over, and I picked her up, and we had a big hug, and she hugged me very, very tightly. Just very like, oh. And I told her that I missed her. And when we got home, she relayed to Daddy the events of the day, and she did tell Daddy that Mommy missed her. Mommy missed me, It's very cute. I'm like, I did tell her I missed her. I didn't particularly think about her, but I always miss her when she's not around. Both my kids, they're very cute and sweet and wonderful, and I do like having time to myself, though. Anyway, so we did that, and then a Burger King had just opened at the shopping center. My children had never been to Burger King, so we tried it out, and I don't know if they were impressed or not. And yeah, other big news for the week is, I don't know if I told you last time that I had signed up to do passport renewal for Tulip to register Catherine's birth and get her a passport and social security number and everything. And then I'd hoped I could just, like, while we were there, drop off my passport renewal application, because my passport also expired or is expiring this year, something like that. 10 years, expiring this year. Okay, it's expiring. It expired on my birthday this year. It expired already. So yeah, but I thought I had read somewhere that I had to post in copies of everything for Catherine's registering a birth abroad in advance, but then I couldn't find anything, and I was working myself in quite a tizzy, and I went to the UK Yankee forum to see if anyone else could point me where this is. And then that night I looked online, I looked at my email, and I had an email saying, you haven't sent this in yet, we'll cancel your appointment, it has to be here by 7 days before your appointment. And I'm like, but we're Like, I could walk it down there myself practically and get it there. I probably could walk it down there myself before this deadline. So I was just like, okay. But at least then I knew what all I had to send in. And the email also helpfully said that if you need to renew your own passport at the same time, you can do that. I'm like, yay! I do need, before I send my passport off, to write down the dates, every date that's stamped in it. Because when I apply for UK citizenship, I need a list of every time I've been out of the country. I think only the last 3 years, but I will write down everything. Although if it's the last 3 years, then I can just wait a little longer, because I think it is 3 years ago, 2 years ago. I was pregnant with Catherine the last time we left, and she is 2, so it might even be 3 years ago now. Is the last time I left the UK. Hey, that would make filling out that form a lot easier. Anyway, I need to write down all the dates just in case it comes up again on any question. That was the thing we needed to write down every time. My husband had been, for this one, you have to write down every time you've been in the US, which for me is basically birth until I left to come visit Scotland, and then there's a few trips back and forth. And that was that. And for Chris, he had 2 trips before we met. The trip where we met in person for the first time, and then 3 trips since then together. But you don't have an exit stamp in your book, you only have an entry stamp, and only 2 of the trips we did together are in his current passport. So I had to go through like my online calendar and everything and go back and work out what dates we were flying on and this and that and the other thing and put it down. And then there's always the problem where you leave the US one day and you land in the UK the next day. And I think I probably should have put the day I landed, but for my dates I put the day I left, because I tend to feel like that's when I left. But my understanding is the airplane is US territory until you get off the plane at the other end, or until it lands, or I don't know, I'm pretty vague. Anyway, all I have to sign is that to the best of my knowledge, it's true. To the best of my knowledge, like the best I could work it out, it's true. Anyway, so Catherine and I went one day, and I guess it was Friday because her gymnastics was canceled, so I thought, let's go into town. And we went to the library and used the photocopier there. I made all my photocopies, and we had gone, I don't remember what day it was, but we went in one day, I guess it was Thursday, after school. We took Christina and went into town, and we all got our passport pictures taken, although I'm not sure they're actually good enough. Where we were sitting, there was a big strong light like this overhead, and so, like, particularly with Christina, there's this big shadow across her face. I guess I don't know how she was sat, but she had this shadow across her face, and like they lightened it in the computer before printing it out, and I just think it's not going to be suitable. So we'll go there and they'll be like, no, you have to get new pictures. So hopefully they'll say, you know, come back today so we can go find another. I've got the receipt with the pictures. We'll go to the same company there and be like, hi, we need new pictures and we need them now. Thank you. I tried doing it at a different shop where I got our pictures done when Christina was wee, but they no longer have the white background that you need for US passport photos, so they couldn't do it. I'm like, no, that was so much better. And so I need to get that posted, and I need to get envelopes, self-addressed stamped envelopes, tracked envelopes that I can turn in with the things so that when they send us our passports, they can send them to us. So I need to get that done still. Just this week, just yesterday and today, the pictures came. I have to show evidence of how Tulip has gone from being the 1-year-old in her passport photos to the 6-year-old you see before you. So while I was at it, I ordered like 300 prints from my phone, and some of them aren't great quality because you can't really tell looking at your phone if it's slightly blurry, but that's okay. So I ordered almost like 300 prints of between Christina being about a year old, Tulip being a year old, and present day. And then from those I went through and I picked out 12 pictures to show how she has aged. So yeah, I don't think they'll even need to see that many pictures. They'll probably be like, yeah, no, okay, it's fine. I mean, they probably only need like 5 pictures, like 1 a year, I don't know. About the time she was 3, she definitely looks like the same person she is now. It's just her face has gotten a little skinnier, but she's definitely like, you see the picture and you see her and you're like, no, yeah, that's the same person. But from baby to 3 that's kind of the big change, which on the bright side, since we've waited so long to do Catherine's passport, means that the difference between being 2 in the pictures and being 7 when we need to renew it won't be as dramatic. And yeah, that's about it for our family. The only other thing is Tulip is doing the Girl Guides this year, and she's in rainbows, but she's going to age out by Easter. She'll be 7 in January, so she gets to finish that term, and then at Easter she's aged out, and she's on a waiting list for the Brownies troop. And I got an email this week saying that given the length of the waiting list, they predict she will make it into the troop in 2022. So in another she'll be out of it in 2020, so 2 years after that, at which point I think she's halfway. I don't know how old Brownies is, but anyway, the Brownie troop currently meets on the same night as Girl Brigades, so I figure we'll just keep her in Girl Brigades, but there's a chance a new troop will open, and if it does, it'll meet on a different night, in which case she may be able to carry on in Girl Guides, because it looks like right now she'll just get, I don't know, September to, March? Is that 6 months of being in Girl Guides? So yeah, I was talking to one of the other mums who's helping run the troop, and she's like, hey, you could start, you could help start a new thing, which she has done. And I'm like, yeah, no, I've got the little one. And she's like, yeah, no, she's the same, because her girl who's in it has a little sister as well, but she's just a little older than Catherine is. And I'm like, I think yours is a little bit better behaved than mine is. And the mom was like, no, she just pretends when we're out in public. And I'm like, I know. Mine doesn't pretend when we're out in public. She's getting better. She's calming down a little bit, and like we've been able to go to knit night. I guess that's something I didn't tell you last time we started. We've been to knit night 2 weeks in a row, which is really nice because I got to interact with other adults and do knitting things. And the first time she was good for about 45 minutes. We had some McDonald's toys, and she sat there and she did stickers and coloring and played with the McDonald's toys. And after about 45 minutes, she just started getting kind of hyper and crazy and climbing all over me. And then the second week, she kind of went straight to hyper and crazy and climbing all over me. But I was able to distract her a little bit and get some knitting done. And I can only really stay for about an hour, whereas I used to be the first person there and the last one to leave when I was going with Tulip, because I just put her in the pram and she'd fall asleep on the walk home. We lived a little closer, and she would not run off. She was very shy, so she always stayed very close and like didn't want anyone else to particularly interact with her. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe we can keep going. I mean, if she's ever badly behaved, I'll just be like, that's it, we have to go. Yeah, so I was seeing stand Girl Brigades over Girl Guides, simply because we can keep doing that and there's plenty of room. If you live in the Inverness area and you have a small child who cannot get into Girl Guides and would like to get into Girl Brigades, come along. It's at the East Church, Tuesday nights. You can look it up online. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me if you made it this far. If you didn't make it this far, it doesn't matter if I thank you or not, I suppose. I'm getting very tired and very loopy. Catherine did not go to sleep until 11 o'clock last night, and I was very grumpy all day. Like, I was fine, and then either of my children would do something and I would just be screaming. Like, there was no build up or anything. It was just straight to screaming. I have very little patience today. And now I'm feeling a bit loopy. I haven't drunk that much of my gin, so it's not that. Anyway, I will talk to you hopefully next week. Thank you for watching. I suppose I never ask you to like or subscribe, but if you do want to, that makes me very happy. Like, oh my God, do not believe how excited I get if someone, I don't think I've ever noticed anyone like, so if you liking, YouTube doesn't tell me, but if you subscribe, I am just ecstatic, over the moon, the happiest person you've ever seen. I'm like, oh my God, someone watched, someone liked it enough to subscribe. Yeah, so thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you had a good time, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.